Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. My name is Cris Hurley, and I'm the president of the Penn State University Retirees Association. I welcome you here this afternoon. It's a beautiful day outside, and we also have a couple of other programs going on that are competing, but we're certainly very happy to see the folks that are here today to join us for this presentation. There's a couple of things I wanted to talk to you about in regards to the association, just some informational things for some of you. We do have a kind of an exciting thing we're looking at. We really want to be better about communicating, and we want to make it easier to communicate. And in order to do that, just like a lot of organizations are finding, we need to go more on the electronic method of getting our information out. The university we partnered with in regards to our mailings and whatnot have notified us that because of budget cuts and things like that, that they're no longer going to be able to support us in the mailing expense and in the printing expense, and it is significant. So we have decided, as a lot of organizations, I'm sure you've had those experiences with just dealing with utility companies or whatever kind of companies, that they really prefer to do paperless, which I think is the direction that everybody is trying to go. So we're making an appeal to anybody in our association that has not given us an email for us to contact you, is to please give us an email. If you've given us an email, you have nothing, there's no changes, nothing to worry about. Our information is going to continue to go out on a listserv of the email. We are going to utilize our website, and that's one of the exciting things that I was mentioned, that we are looking at a product right now that some of the other organizations at Penn State are using, which really makes it's a very intuitive program. It's an easy program to access, and once we feel that we can get the kinds of things that we need to be able to communicate in an effective way to our membership, then we hope to possibly evaluate in using that program. And that program will help us with our graphics and communications and our notifications and organization of keeping our memberships lists in line, and it'll just be a better way to communicate. And the website will be much better formed so that you can easily access it and move around within it, and it should be very beneficial for us. So, we feel that if we're going to go out now and say it's really necessary for us to do everything kind of electronic and paperless, that we need to make sure that the ability for you to be able to do that is easy for you to do. And the only thing, of course, that's needed is you have to be kind of linked into us with an email address, and you also have to have the opportunity, if you want to go on and look at our website, and where we record these programs, you can access them, you can move around, there'll be a menu on that website. So we're working on that now. Brian Hallberg and Carter Ackerman and a few other folks are working together on that, and we really think it's going to be something very positive. And we're kind of getting in line with a lot of other organizations which are happening. The other thing I wanted to mention is our program for May. We usually have an annual business meeting, and that is planned again for this year, but normally our programs are on the third Thursday of the month, and we had our business meeting last year at Agape Hall, which is in Good Shepherd Catholic Church building in Ferguson, or in Patton Township off of Grace Woods Boulevard. And we found that to be a very nice venue last year. They were very accommodating to us. It was very comfortable. There's plenty of parking. It's easy access to get in the building. The caterer likes it. They have a kitchen right there. So we wanted to do the same thing this year, and unfortunately, the only date we could get that kind of coincided with the Thursday in that month of May was the 25th. So you'll be getting a notice on that. We're still working on finalizing the speaker for that event, and that information should be coming out shortly, within the next 2 or 3 weeks, so that you can see what that program is going to be like. But if you could just make a mental note that this year it will be on the 25th, which is the fourth Thursday, as opposed to the third Thursday in May. The Foxdale Village has been we've had a wonderful relationship with them over the years. I mean, they've been so helpful in giving us an opportunity to use the facilities here at Foxdale, and to provide refreshments for us. And I really want to give a heartfelt thanks to Foxdale and to their administration and all the folks that help with this facility to welcome us as they do and provide refreshments and accommodations, and that's always been beneficial. And it's you know, it's good, I think, for a number of our members that are here, but also it's convenient to get here and people know where it is, and it's just a very wonderful facility. So I wanted to thank Foxdale for what they have done and continue to do to support our organization. Well, we have a speaker here today, and we're excited for the speaker, and the speaker's name is Jeannine Lozier. Jeannine Lozier is the Vice President of Membership Engagement for the Chamber of Business and Industry of Center County. Her responsibilities include managing the Chamber's annual new member recruitment, engaging and retaining members, and improving the overall experience for members. She is a dedicated and seasoned engagement professional with a track record of advocating for the community and building relationships within government, nonprofit organization, and the private sector. Jeannine is a native of Center County and a familiar face to many through her involvement in several community organizations and charitable work. She enjoys spending time with family and friends, hiking and reading, and when she's not volunteering, she enjoys those things. Jeannine holds a Bachelor of Arts degree in History from Messiah University and a Master of Science degree in Strategic Leadership from Elizabethtown College. And it is my pleasure to welcome Jeannine, and just want you to know that there's opportunities at the end of Jeannine's presentation for questions, and Jean will be here to answer those if there are questions, and this is also being recorded that will be on our website. So Jeannine, it's all yours.
All right, good afternoon. I talk with my hands. I may roam a little bit, but if you can't hear me, let me know because I've lost the mic. But I'm pleased to be here today. I like to say I'm a reformed townie. I was born here, I grew up here, I went away for college, and I was gone for a few years until my mom got sick, and I've been back in town since 2006. And I will say, as a returning adult, you love this community in a new way when you come back. And that is part of why I'm at the Chamber of Business and Industry of Center County. So just thought I'd give you a quick overview of what we do, and then we'll get into what I was specifically invited here to talk about, sort of our initiatives and why we invest in them. So again, our mission, we are here to promote the well-being and growth of commerce, business, and industry while maintaining the high quality of life in Center County. I think we all know how fortunate we are to live in this beautiful community, which in my humble opinion has everything you could want for a good, happy, and healthy life. And we do execute our mission in kind of two strategic ways, which I'll talk about after I introduce the team. Greg Scott, for those of you who don't know, he took over as the CEO and president of the Chamber about a year and a half ago. He is also a local. He grew up in Milesburg, he went to Penn State, he joined the Navy, he worked at Penn State, he worked at Pitt, and he has also returned to the community. Donna Newberg's his assistant. Felicia Hetzman is our marketing and communications person. Myself, and Tom Pancala, which some of you may know if you worked at Penn State. He has joined us to head our programs and events, and we are excited. We are in the process of hiring a vice president of economic development, and we'll talk a little bit more of that in a bit. But we execute our mission through two kind of functions. The first is what I call the typical chamber. So not every chamber is an economic development entity like we are. So at the chamber, that is about being the voice of business. We represent over 700 member organizations, which range from one-man shops to nonprofits to higher education institutes called Penn State. And that's about 80,000 employees that are covered under our organizations that we represent. That is not 80,000 employees that live in Center County. We are a net importer of jobs. So more people come into the county to work than who live and work here. So the typical work of the chamber is advocacy. And think about that in kind of tiers. So it's local advocacy. It's sort of making sure we're having the right conversations with the local municipalities so that businesses can thrive and flourish. And that can be things around sign specifics, or how a road, if they're going to open a business, where's the road going to go through? Where's the light going to go through? Those are things we work on. Networking, and networking is really key for businesses for two key reasons. It's peer-to-peer communications. It's finding people who have sort of your experience or can help maybe mentor, or you can mentor someone, but it's also a way to pipeline for your business, to find potential clients, to get referrals as you make relationships. So it is one of the key functions that we do. And the last is what we call business supports. In this community, we are lucky to have an abundance of resources for businesses of all sizes, but we do provide education, advertising support. We do some work to help folks in the community, new movers to the community, and outside the community find the businesses here in Center County. And part of what we'll talk about today, a lot of what we'll talk about today, is our initiatives under the economic development umbrella. And I always say that economic development, it's vaguely specific. Oh, you're developing the economy. Well, how do you do that? What are the things we do? So they fall into kind of three large categories. So it's how do we make sure there's a favorable climate for the businesses that are here to grow, to thrive, to expand, and for businesses to come in. So we think about business retention. So I'll give you an example. KCF is a local technology company that we have worked with. At one point, they were thinking of leaving the area. They didn't believe they had the resources needed to stay. So we worked with them and say, hey, we don't want to lose the 100+ jobs that you bring to our community. How do we have a conversation? What do you need? What can we help put in place? But it's also about attracting new investment. So smart economic growth isn't just about saying, oh, come build here to any company. It's about finding the right matches that mesh with our opportunities here, our space, our infrastructure, in some ways our values as a community. What makes sense to grow here? And we really take a long-term view about sustainability. So it doesn't help us for a large company to come and be here for a year or two. We want companies to come and make a lifetime here, to see the ability to grow and expand. And that's what drives that sustainable growth across the county. And we're a big believer in that, a rising tide lifts all boats. So that's how you bring economic prosperity to some of the parts of our county that, that they're coming along, but they need a little more support in those areas. And then we do think about community development. So how do we invest in ways to make this community great? Some of that may be through advocating for infrastructure, through parks, through the built environment. Some of it is through how do we support programs and services that are going to make talent retention and talent recruitment stellar here across the county. So I think people are sometimes surprised to hear about the community development, but it's a really important part of what we do. It's just oftentimes we're in the chorus. We're singing and supporting the people who are leading those, because if you're leading community development, you're probably in the municipality sector, maybe in the nonprofit, and our job is to support you and be maybe an amplifier in that process. So one of the ways we execute on economic development is thinking about where do we need to dedicate resources, human capital, capital itself, expertise, knowledge, to advance the things that are going to help businesses grow or invest in the area. So we tend to call these initiatives, that's in chamber world, they talk about anything that's kind of a focused. It's usually not lifetime. They're usually things that have a 3 to 5 year lifespan. So that's what I was invited to talk about today. So we'll talk about the initiatives that we have going on, and then I'll end with a little bit of what's coming on the horizon, what you'll see in the coming year to 2 years from the chamber. So the first of which we call Drive Forward, and it is exactly what it infers. It was really put together to drive 2 big infrastructure projects around highways. I'd be very surprised if you have not encountered these in some ways. The first is Potter's Mills, right before you go over 7 counties, before you get to 7 mountains. So that route, if you're a real old townie, you remember it used to be one of the most dangerous intersections in the country. So it took a long time to get the wherewithal, both from a political advocacy, from state funding, from federal funding, also local funding, to say we need to address this issue. And that came through this Drive Forward project. Along with that was the I-99 and I-80 interchange, which happened in 3 stages. So the first 2 stages are complete, and the third stage, I believe, is slated to be complete in 2025. So the one you're probably most familiar with is that Jacksonville Road, because they just completed it. So if you've been on sort of 220-99, you've seen that and what they're doing. What you'll see from the I-99 and I-80 Exchange, if you're paying attention, you'll notice that there's been a lot of development in the Bellefonte Exchange right there. There's a Rudders. They just built the Giant. I believe a Wawa is going in there soon. There's still talk about the warehouse project coming in. My understanding is things are a little stalled because of cost of construction right now, but part of the reason you're seeing that development in that area, seeing that land put to taxable use, is because of this interchange, because it makes it more effective, safer, and easier to transport goods along the I-80 corridor. The other thing that's important to know about both of these projects is safety was a big component. It really did drive safety, and overall it should reduce traffic and reduce delays once all the pieces are in place. So just to give you a quick overview, this is that Potter's Mills. This came from PennDOT, so it's a kind of a large overview. And then here's just kind of a construction site. I'm guessing most of you have driven the Potter's Mills, right? And then here's the I-80, if I can highlight it, the I-80, and then the Betterment, right? The Betterment section, the Jacksonville Road is right here. And then this 25 is what's slated for 2025, this sort of in green. So those are all in process. I should say with the Potter's Mills project, there is a State College connector that is not a guaranteed. They've done an environmental study, so right now that's up at PennDOT, and so PennDOT and the municipalities will continue those discussions. The Potter's Mills, I believe, costs just under $100 million to do that exchange construction site, and then it cost about $54 million for the I-80, I-26 exchange. For Center County, it's kind of a double whammy in terms of economic development. Not only do we have safer transportation and frankly, transfer, like goods and services can get in and out of our community more readily, which is really important to businesses. Glen O'Habaker, who's one of the largest employers in the state, did both of those projects. So the dollar stayed with a lot of employees that live in this area. So when you think about that economic dollar, it didn't just advance transportation, it stayed put in terms of salary and spend here in the area. Just want to make sure. Oop. Let me go back. All right, so this is another view of the Jacksonville. You can kind of see it with cars there. One of our probably lesser known initiatives is something called Ag Ventures. As many of you know, if you've been in Center County for any length of time, agriculture has very deep roots in the community. And over the last probably decade to 20 years, people have found ways to, I would say, have niche productive businesses outside the farming community. So that's the rise of farming communities. I like to point to Way Fruit Farm, Harner's, Tate Farms, right? They have figured out how to use agriculture to a really robust business practice. Well, with that has come people who will actually tour based on agriculture. And so in Center County, it was like we have an opportunity here to bring in dollars in a variety of ways to support the community, to support agriculture in a kind of different way than we typically see. So Happy Valley Ag Ventures is a joint venture between the Chamber and Happy Valley Adventure Bureau, which is our tourism board for the area. And it largely falls under what I would call a multimedia campaign. So it's about sending out based on zip codes, incomes, interest outside of the area. It's not that you don't see advertising here, but it's really not intended for locals. It's intended to draw people from a reasonable drive to the area to invest in coming here. Maybe they spend a night, maybe they visit, an agricultural site or two, but they're spending those dollars here. It has very specific goals just to increase visitation, increase spending at these sites. So how do we encourage people to spend just a little bit more, increase products sold, and that's a direct benefit to those ag venture partners that we have in play. It's growth and visitation to multiple sites. So can we get them to come and visit 2 or 3 sites instead of just coming for one? And also really important, overnight stays in the county. And that includes in a traditional hotel and what we call about the shareable economy, Airbnb, those types of things. Center Ready is a workforce initiative. I don't know anyone right now who is not talking about workforce, having enough people to do the jobs that need to be done. I I heard, I don't know if it's still true, that post-pandemic, there's about 6 million positions that are left unfilled that need to be filled, and an expectation that it could take 5 years to get back to that employment cycle we were before. So Center Ready, we're actually in what I call 2.0. It had existed before I joined the chamber. It was a great program, but sort of right around COVID, they decided to look at it again. And it is a voluntary accreditation program for a student. So all 5 school districts and the 2 technical schools, CPI and South Hills, participate. And they offer a very specified curriculum that focuses on what we technically call the soft skills. So work ethic, tactfulness, teamwork, supervision, how to accept supervision, understanding critical thinking, problem solving, and communication, so that when these students come out with the Center Ready certificate, it tells potential employer there's a set of soft skills that these kids have, and so it makes them a little more employable from the start into what we hope are not just jobs, but career pathways for students. As part of the 2.0 reignition, we created a summit and a signing day. And so the summit is really a half-day program for the students who are enrolled, and it brings in local employers, and they do some skill building workshops, but then they talk about what opportunities exist within their body of business, not just for a job, but for career employment. And I'll give you 2 examples. So Scott's Landscaping. He's like, kids, their parents, they think, oh, if you come to work here, you're going to be mowing a lawn for the rest of your life. And he's like, no, we have career paths. Good career paths. And I need the opportunity to demonstrate to them what that path is. So a student who could say, I may not want college, that may not be the right next step for me, and I'm not sure technical school is the right next step. But they don't have to just settle for a job. They can settle for a trajectory that gives them a nice middle-class living. Same with Stuckey Automotive. You guys may be familiar. Stuckey bought the old CDT building. They just got their certificate of occupancy, so they'll be open any day now. But he's like, I absolutely want to hire kids directly from CPI and give them a career in automotive, that they can come to Stuckey and move up because it's a pretty big automotive company. So it's about finding those opportunities for kids that maybe that 4-year college degree isn't right, but helping them see beyond a job to a career path. And so we're particularly excited about that summit and making those connections. And then also having a signing day. We celebrate, you see it all the time here at Penn State, a student athlete who gets recruited and signs. They have a big day with their college. Well, we want to celebrate those students and those companies that are creating jobs and staying local and entering the economy. So we'll be having a signing day to celebrate those students who are saying, oh, here we go, I'm entering the workforce, I'm entering a career path, and we'll be celebrating those. So look for that. That'll probably be early June of this year. We're very excited. Success with honor. I don't know how many of you guys are familiar with name, image, and likeness. So just not to assume, the NCAA lost a court battle, and the court battle said, basically the court decided that students could profit from their name, image, or likeness. You'll see that is often referred to as NIL. Right now in the NIL world, I would still tell you it's a little bit of the Wild West. They're still figuring out what's legal. NCAA is still figuring out rules. So things are changing rapidly, but something that seems to be stuck is what we call the collective, so that there are bodies of experts or sports agents or advertisers who create a collective to sign student athletes and act as their agent to help them profit from their likeness. So I've gotten this question of, well, why is the chamber involved in NIL? And it's really kind of a 3-step process. 1, Penn State is an important employer in our community, and they're an important driver of tourism dollars. And sports under that is an even more important driver. So NIL, as it increases in importance, is going to affect recruitment, and that is key to keeping people excited about Penn State sports, keeping them here. So we wanted to say, hey, we support you. We think this is really important. So they came to us and said, this is kind of the collective we like the best, because the Success with Honor Collective has we want to represent every athlete. We want to make sure that every athlete can get funding. So it's not just the star football player or the star basketball player. It's the soccer player. It's the lacrosse player. It's the volleyball player that they have an opportunity. So we are working with them to hopefully create opportunities for local businesses to use what we would call in the influencer culture, so using a student to endorse their brand and drive business. That's a very specified unit, right? That's people who need traffic driven to their digital front door, their website, or to their actual physical space. So think more of the transactional stores, car dealerships, anyone who's looking to sort of, I need to see someone in person, or I need to grab their attention virtually to walk into my virtual store. And we think there's a lot of really great opportunities for those individuals because we are right next door to Penn State. That's the kind of influencer we just happenstance can be able to help our members benefit from. So we're excited about that. It's been an interesting ride. Geisinger has partnered with them as well as a couple car dealerships. And so we're all figuring out how NIL works. But I think you'll see in the future that this is gonna be a really big discussion point within the community, within Penn State, and probably, gonna affect how the future of kind of sports plays out in our community. This year we are launching what's called the National Civics Bee. We are doing that in partnership with the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and it's really thinking about how important civics and civic discourse is to healthy and robust economies. So middle schoolers, so 6th, 7th, and 8th graders could participate. The first phase of the competition is completed. They had to submit an essay, which got judged by a handful of volunteers from across the county. So there were teachers, some Penn State staff, some chamber staff who reviewed them, and 20 students from the submissions were selected and will compete in a live kind of spelling bee with civics questions on April 17th. The first place winner gets $1,000 and they move on to the national competition. We are one of, I think, 4 chambers to offer this for the first time in Pennsylvania. So we're excited. It's had a great reception from the schools and from the students, and we're excited to see what the bee looks like in person because, they're still little at that age. The last one is maybe not an initiative, but just kind of fun. We are going to travel. We partnered with Colette. We're going to go to Tuscany in October. So if any of you are looking to go to slightly warmer climates, have some wonderful drink, have some great tours, Colette is great to work with. It's a hub and spoke tour, so you stay at one place mostly and then kind of take day trips out. One of the reasons we partner with them is they do offer a door-to-door program, so they will pick you up at your door, get you to the airport, and bring you back. So if anyone is interested in learning more about that, see me after. I forgot the brochures, but I'll take your name and get that to you. And then the Horizon. So as I said, I introduced you to the team. Greg has been there the longest, for about 1.5 years. The rest of us, I think, Felicia's been there a little over a year, Donna's been there over a year, I have not hit my year yet, and Tom just started. So we're almost a whole new team. So what you're gonna see is kind of, what does a new team at the chamber look like? And this is what we're gonna invest in. We're creating an economic development council. As we think about being proactive and developing some smart, sustainable growth for the area, no one organization is in a single position to have all the expertise and all the capital and all the resources to move it forward. So how do we bring all the key stakeholders together? The municipalities, the other chambers in the area, the downtown improvement districts. How do we have developers, hoteliers, all at the table and deciding together what are the priorities that are best going to advance our community that we're all going to agree to support for the next 3 to 5 years? The goal is to be very proactive and to be very data-driven. So we're excited about that. That'll launch in June of this year. Again, that first job they're going to do is to develop a strategic economic development plan. So I like to say it's about making sure that everyone's singing off the same hymnal, if not on the same page. Municipalities, the county government, they all have priorities that are important and we can't ignore. But how do we just make sure that we are, A, not getting in each other's way, that we have an overarching vision that makes sense for the county, and that we're all sort of rowing in the same direction together. And we think by having a strategic plan that has all those key stakeholders at the table, we can build a plan that lets those individual organizations do and advance what they need, but have a more comprehensive and regional approach to how we begin to do the next phase of economic development for the community. We're also probably in Q2, we'll be launching a DEI task force, and that's gonna probably have sort of 2 spokes. One spoke is, how do we at the chamber think about diversity for our own organization? What does that look like? How do we touch it? How do we feel it? How do we think about it? That's for, getting a task force together. But also, how do we help our businesses in a way that makes sense for them to engage with DEI? We started that, Greg will actually be at a workforce inclusion summit focused around rural DEI. So we're really excited to bring that information back to our community and begin really some smart conversations about what does DEI look like in the rural parts of our county as well as State College. And that could cover a gambit from how do we support minority-owned businesses to how do we have people feel like they can make their home here and want to stay with an employer if they come to the community. We'll be launching a government affairs program, which will focus on local and state advocacy, just making sure we've got those communication tools, two ways, we're having the right conversations with the right people. And then we've started a women's leadership group. So one of the things we heard was for women in the area, and women just have a different career trajectory based on lots of factors. How do we put something together that spans the age range? So someone who might just be graduating college or just graduated high school to taking advantage of those women who are maybe in the final stage of their career. They're an executive director, they're going to retire in a few years. How do we collectively do that to give women sort of some peer-to-peer, some mentoring, some skill building that's designed for them and the issues that they face in the workforce? So that is the horizon. We're excited. We like to call it a new day at the Chamber just because we're all new. And I'll open it up to questions. Yes?
Are you all involved, or will you be involved in Ira Lubert's winning casino?
So we are not. So we don't have any direct impact through the casino that I think is going in at the Nittany Mall. Nope, that is not directly related to us at all. Oh, he was asking about the casino project, and if the chamber had any direct relationship, and we don't. We've had no involvement in that project.
I have a question. Two questions, actually, Jeannine. One has to do with health care in the area, and I see that Geisinger is planning on expanding at their Grace Woods location, and we have Penn Highlands, which is building. How much does the chamber get involved in healthcare, and are there other major healthcare providers that are looking at the area to expand?
Sure, it's a great question, and for those of you who don't know my resume, I spent 16 years at Mount Nittany Health, so I'm in a good position to answer. So the chamber is not directly related because we're in the fortunate position of having very robust healthcare and healthcare options. So in our community, we have Mount Nittany Health, we have Penn State Health, and we have Geisinger, and they're all very strong entities. There also still are some independent practitioners in the area. And then UPMC is building and coming into the area. So from our standpoint, what the chamber cares about is having robust, pardon the pun, but healthy healthcare so that access remains strong to both specialty care and primary care here locally. So the goal is that it's accessible across the county. Beyond that, there's not any specific initiatives right now around healthcare, but we do feel that we have a lot of very good providers in the area. So it's not what I would call anything that I see on the horizon as a major issue for the area.
Well, thank you. Then my second question is in regards to our airport. I know that, or at least I had heard or looked like it might have been planned at some time to do a direct connection from I-99 to the airport to make it much more viable and easy to get to the airport. And I noticed that I think there's even some roadway kind of parts where they could take off. I wonder how much the chamber is getting involved with supporting the growth of the airport, because that certainly has to be a big thing to support for the area growth.
Yeah, no, the airport is central. I would say right now they're not conversations, but I absolutely believe that is part of what will be in the strategic plan, that they'll be looking at the airport and thinking about what are the projects that support and advance that'll then get funneled into that airport. So right now there's not any projects, but I would be very surprised if we don't see it in the economic development plan that emerges.
I was wondering if the chamber has a position on the connector between Potter's Mills and Bowlesburg.
We don't.
Because there are a lot of farm businesses that
There are
going to be involved.
There are. Right now, the chamber does not have an official position, but we're seeing the discussions, we're talking to the municipalities, but we do not have a formal position.
Has there been any more research on looking at a route from Potter's Mills up to 80, sort of paralleling 144, because that would take away a lot of the truck traffic coming through State College. If they could get people off of 322 at that point, it would help traffic quite a bit, and maybe they wouldn't have to mess with the connector.
No, it's a great question. I don't know. I would have to look through the PennDOT files and see if that has been studied or is on the potential PennDOT plans, but I do not know if that's the case or not. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Jeannine. That's very informative, and it looks like there's a lot of exciting things going on here for us to look forward to in the future in Happy Valley. Again, thank you for coming out. There's